Yeah, I do it for my people and my family and the ones who say they understand me. Yeah, I see you and I see you. We gon' make it to the top, that's what we do. Tell them like, black is the new green. Black is the new green. We gon' make it to the top, we gon' live our dream. Shout out to the ones who doubt me. I'm a strong black king, tell them crown me. Beat the odds, leave them mad, now they frowning. I be swimming in the money like I'm drowning. Black is the new green. Black is the new green.
Hey guys, welcome to Black is the New Green, an original series right here of live interviews dedicated to shining the spotlight on Black entrepreneurs and the amazing achievements of our community. I'm Michelle Taylor Willis, your host for the show today and every day. And I'm super excited to have our live audience joining us, as well as everybody that's going to be on Team Replay. Black is the New Green was created by Radivision, the new streaming and community platform for the startup world, where everybody can be entertained, learn about, and participate in the entrepreneurial revolution that is literally upon us right now. And it's transforming how we live, work, play, and most importantly, kind of create our futures. Speaking of creating futures, I'm really excited to introduce to you guys my guest for today. He's here to talk about Culture Wireless, a company that he is the co-founder of and chief marketing officer. But once you start learning about this guy, you will see that he is all things marketing and activation, but really inspiration. And I'm hoping that you guys will be as inspired as I am every time I talk to him. So welcome to the show, Bam Sparks. Hey, Bam.
Hey, what's going on, Michelle?
How are you?
Doing great.
Listen, I know I've known you for a while, but I still love the fact that your name is Bam. I mean, like, I know that's not your real name, William, but like literally, if I ask anybody who William Sparks is, they'll be like, I don't know what you're talking about. But if I just say Bam, everybody knows Bam.
Exactly. My mom she's never called me William before. So
Are you serious?
Never in my life.
Wow. All right. Well, I've never called you William either, so I don't know who that guy is. I don't want to meet him. I like Bam. And I think everybody's going to like Bam too. So I want to talk about a couple of the different things you're doing, because in the startup world and the entrepreneurial space, you have been killing it literally since, your late teens, early 20s. But I know we're here to talk about Culture Wireless. So let's talk about that a little bit in terms of the startup space. Tell us exactly what Culture Wireless is.
Well, we're an internet service provider, and we provide broadband for low-income households. So Al and Vernell and I and Jerome, we had an idea to essentially start our own internet. COVID hit, and people weren't able to access it, especially people of color. Kids were getting sent home, and they didn't have the proper resources. So we just decided to create our own situation for the culture.
For the culture. It's interesting because I know when I go on your LinkedIn profile, it's you're a content creator like for the culture. What does that mean?
I mean, the culture, we've been involved in a lot of different aspects of the culture. So I feel like I can provide different experiential and just different context to what we do, because I feel like we are the culture. I feel like we provide a certain type of access to the cool. You know what I mean? So
The cool.
Yeah, we are the cool factor. So that then resonates with the rest of general population, and here we are the culture.
We are the culture. Okay. So you started your own ISP. Like, most people are just sitting around like, yeah, I think I'm gonna start an internet company. I mean, you're literally providing this service. Now, are you guys reselling it basically? Do you have your own fiber in the ground or in the air? However we're doing it these days, I don't know. What does that look like?
Well, right now we're partnering with Crown Castle on the fiber side. Eventually we will run our own fiber, but they are great partners of ours. They used to Do a lot of stuff with Bell South. They've been around for a while. And as far as going to the consumer, right now we partner with AT&T, but I mean that's going to grow even more. Since we're a startup, we had to kind of lean on some bigger partners, um, and tap into the demographic that they weren't necessarily reaching. Um, right now, we're working on a deal with what's it, Airband with Microsoft, to where we'll be able to provide internet in rural areas and, of course, to people of color, because everybody wants to help close this digital divide. So we're kind of leaning on these majors to spend some capital and help us out.
So let's talk about exactly how you did that, right? Because I would imagine you need access to capital to be able to start an ISP, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you don't just pull $100 out and be like, okay, here we go, right? So how did you acquire the capital to even be able to embark upon this service? And what does that look like in terms of just getting started?
Well, I mean, luckily, my partners and I, we had, a few dollars to where we can self fund most of this stuff.
Got it.
And, my expertise is leaning on to partnerships. So since we already had a previous company called Mulan Mobile, we already had relationships with, the AT&Ts. Al has a heavy background in the fiber world and networking because he's
Okay.
networked all of the major airports. So he was able to pull in Crown Castle, and just based off the pitch, when you see a black-owned ISP in Atlanta, it just made sense for people to want to partner with us. So to be honest, we haven't really had to spend too much capital. And now, the government has all these funds to help, people like us get started. So, for instance, we're working on a pilot program with the Beltline, and there's funding from the city to help, run the fiber, have Wi-Fi available for the consumers, and do the last mile program.
So you're basically providing internet for underprivileged communities.
Yes.
Is this just in Atlanta, or is this something that's in different metro cities, metro areas?
Well, we're very close to closing a deal in Detroit right now. Also going to be working in Miami. Overtown is a target of ours. We've had conversations with the city of Baltimore, Chicago, Los Angeles, and I'm missing a few. Oh, Birmingham.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have a lot on our plate.
So what I know you said COVID, and so COVID has been it's you either really benefited from COVID or you didn't benefit at all, right? There's no gray area when it came to COVID. But as I'm talking to a lot of Black founders, it's almost like COVID was the perfect time to launch a business. And I mean, you just basically said in a couple of different ways that that was the case for you. Why was it, especially when you're dealing with four Black guys entering basically a digital space in you know, a market, a depressed market, for lack of a better terms, during COVID? Why did you guys have so much success in terms of being able to have your own capital and partner with these different companies? Like, how did COVID help that?
Well, COVID actually I believe the reason why a lot of companies launched, it gave people time to sit down. While everyone was quarantining, you all you could do is sit around with your thoughts and figure out what the next move.
Right.
So I literally went and bought a whiteboard, and I would hit my BAM creative team because I have a branding and creative agency, and we would just brainstorm via Zoom or Google Meet. And yeah, I feel like I'm the master of the pivot. So I saw a need, there was a problem, because I have little nieces and nephews that didn't have access. So I'm like, man, how can we run this fiber into these communities? Because believe it or not, some of the strongest internet and best bandwidth is right in the hood. Google started a project on Martin Luther King, I want to say 8-9 years ago, and they just stopped. a lot of these big companies wanted to do a smart city project, but I guess I don't know if they didn't have the funds or the resources or what happened, but we kind of picked the ball up and carried it. So the day Al and I and Burnell were walking around and we saw this fiber coming out of the ground, we were like, man, listen, I grew up on Martin Luther King, so I'm like, how is it that the people right here off Sunset don't have internet? They
Right.
should access it. And
Because it's right there, right?
it's right
Like
there.
it's right there. But we see that so often in our communities, right? Where we're like the hub of it all, but we can't access it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
We can't access it. But keep going. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
I mean, when Biden got in office, they launched a program, an ACP program, which basically gives people internet for a discounted rate, and it pays the provider. So the thing is, if we're able to go in Vine City, which where we're launching our pilot program, and offer internet pretty much for free, why not take advantage of it? Especially while the government is funding it.
So you're taking advantage, right? So again, so many different ways that COVID helped kind of fuel this, right? Because you take advantage of the government initiatives, and then really being able. I love what you said. You saw your nieces and nephews in the hood that are out of school, right? That need to learn virtually, and they can't because they can't afford internet.
Yeah, can't afford high speed internet. It's a problem.
And so it speaks to the disparity, right? Because we know the city of Atlanta has a huge disparity between who makes the most money, right? And who really has access to that, right? So as a community, we know that we make more money than ever in the Atlanta metropolitan area, but our children are doing the worst in the country.
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
mentioned digital divide earlier. This is another example of what that digital divide looks like, where the gap is getting bigger because now our kids are at home for 2 years and we're already behind. And now we can't even get on the internet to attempt to just stay even.
exactly. So, um, one of the programs we're about to launch, I'm waiting on a couple confirmations from the city. We're going to do a partnership with APS. I was in APS my whole life. I went to Frederick Douglass High School, so
And that's Atlanta Public Schools for those of you guys not in Atlanta.
yeah. So there are some schools, and I've done the research, that need access. So what we're going to do is partner up with Microsoft and help distribute devices. So it's not just having access to the internet; it's access to devices as well. So they have a affordable device program that they just launched, and what we're going to do is disperse it throughout, APS. Last year for Juneteenth, I did a partnership at the Trap Music Museum with Microsoft, and we gave out 300 laptops to homeless kids. So this year we're going to do something even bigger. The programming has continued to grow, has continued to scale, and because I feel like, these big brands are coming to our city, I feel like they need to spend more dollars in our community. And want to do is create some sort of workforce development program to teach these kids or teach people in the community how to work for or create their own businesses or, you know, take advantage of the assets that are in the city.
So let me ask you this, because I know we're talking about City of Atlanta and you've got partnerships coming all over the city. And we talked a little bit about for the culture earlier and we are the culture. Do you think as a Black community, especially as a community of founders in this digital age where we're seeing more and more Black founders get their roses, so to speak, right? Are we doing enough for the culture? Are we taking advantage like we should be to be able to affect the culture? I mean, obviously, I know that you and your co-founders are, but are we doing enough? And then if we're not, how do we affect the culture? Because it's one thing to say we got to do it, we got to do it, we got to do it, but sometimes people need the roadmap for how to do it because everybody is not as innovative and um, intentional as BAM, right?
Yeah, I think it's has to be a lot more collaboration. I think there are people doing great things in the community. I was just with Jasmine Crow from Gooder the other day. She's doing an amazing job. Uh, my boy Ryan over at the gathering spot, Ryan Wilson. There are a bunch of people that are doing things and you know educating people and putting people in position. I just feel like there just needs to be more collaboration. I feel like all of these founders have to kind of get together and pull all these resources together. We have a couple ideas on how we can launch some different programs. Can't necessarily mention all of them right now, but I
Oh, come
think
on, BAM, give us the goods.
and I can't. But
We won't tell anybody. There's only like only 1 million people or so will see this. No, I mean, come on. We can keep a secret.
no, it's okay. I mean, there are some things in the works, and I feel like the more collaboration with our people and these founders that are doing great, I think the better the turnout will be. Because it just only helps with the reach.
So it's interesting you mentioned collaboration. I know you said that that's a way you've been able to actually fund this startup um, through obviously the collaboration just in funds with your co-founders, but also in these kind of intentional partnerships with people like Microsoft or Crown. I'm sorry,
Crown Castle.
Crown Castle. Um, so but let's talk about funding for a second. So are you guys going to have to seek funding? Are you gonna raise money?
Potentially, it just depends. It has to be the right partner. Uh, we've done a few activations now with Shaquille O'Neal. There are a couple of the celebrities that we're speaking with. Have had a couple meetings with a few black billionaires that want to be a part of what we're doing. I feel like I don't want to necessarily just take the wrong money. I feel
Right.
like whoever we partner with, it needs to be right as far as positioning. We don't necessarily need to raise capital because there's so many grants and, like I said, government funding that can help us propel this. And with these contracts that are coming in, we're obviously going to be making money. So we can continue to be self-funded and grow and scale. But I feel like, to take money right now, I think we're just holding off on that.
Wow. Okay, so you realize that that's so contrary to what a lot of people in the startup space, especially in the tech space,
Yeah, yeah. This is
like,
this is space. Yeah,
yeah, this is a first, right? Because I mean, obviously, we hear. I mean, we've this is our 12th or 13th show. And we're sometimes in a space where people aren't seeking funding right now, but they've gone through their first round. They've done family friends, or they've done the seed round, so they are raising money. To hear you say, like, yeah, I mean, we've got, this is a multi-million-dollar thing, obviously, and you're like, yeah, we're good.
yeah.
And so it's the key collaborations, right? It's the partnerships. But the piece that I'm very interested in that you said is the government piece, the grants, and kind of like for lack of a better term, the free money that's out there. Talk
Yeah.
to people about how they get access in the startup world to that.
Well, I think we're just in a sweet spot. Like I said, I've launched other tech companies. You actually interviewed my business partner Vernell, and we've
Yes,
raised capital for Moolah Mobile.
right.
Different situation because, like, literally, I think they just cleared $100 million that they're supposed to disperse in the state of Georgia, just for the state of Georgia, to close this digital divide. This is more so of a national crisis. So because we're in this crisis mode, they are paying people like us, especially black people, to come help solve this issue. So we don't necessarily have to go to some venture capital fund and say, hey, we're raising, $3 million to get going. We don't have to because, there are Microsofts, Googles, Apples out there. Uh, Airbnb, I've had a call with them like to come in and help with this situation because they have to spend it on certain things. They have to bring in more. They have to, do stuff in the community. So I'm not necessarily saying we're taking advantage of it, but
Right.
you
Well,
know,
taking advantage of it in a good way.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the money's there for this purpose. If we
Right.
don't use it, it'll sit there, or it'll go to the usual suspects, that don't necessarily you want to grow in our space, and help the culture. They'll just, do a few things here and there, and just to appease the same people they've been appeasing for the last 30, 40 years.
Right. Wow. Okay, so how do people find that money? Because that's funding. It's just a little bit different. It's a different way of funding, right? So how do people find these initiatives where they can go and basically get this money, as the culture says, let's get this money, right?
Yeah. Well, on the consumer side, I mean, these programs are available. I don't think our people necessarily know about it. So one of the things that we're doing is going to like the NPUs and talking to the city councilmen and coming up with flyers and just going to like the West End Mall and certain places and just, it's more so street teaming it so people understand. I mean, I have some other marketing campaigns that I'm working on, but that's going to take a little bit more money. Like I was just telling my boy over at Microsoft, we want to activate at these major conventions, and I know they're doing some stuff down in Birmingham. I want to make sure that we get in front of all of our people, like almost go door to door with it.
So it's really like a grassroots campaign. So if I hear you, I think there's kind of two sides to this, right? It's getting out into the community, the city council meetings, the meetings that happen just on the public side of things to see what's available in the local community and grabbing that, right? But then there's another piece to it where it just takes intentional research, like, right, like getting on the computer and Googling grant money available for digital startups,
Yeah,
right? Or partnerships available with Fortune 500 companies, or companies that want to do business with Black people. You said that. You
yeah,
said that there is money out there right now, quote unquote, for Black people, for Black owned companies, for Black led companies.
yeah,
So there's almost like no excuse why we should not be killing the game right now in this.
yeah. Yeah. I feel like these are our reparations. That's how I look at it. I feel like
Mm,
by them providing all of this capital, not for free. I mean, you still have to provide a service, or,
absolutely.
but I feel like we're going to do that anyway. We're going to figure it out. Me and my partners, that's what we do. We're problem solvers. So I feel like now that there is access and the messaging is right, we're doing all this intentionally to provide stuff for our people. I mean, it just makes sense.
You're like the male Olivia Pope.
Oh, wow.
You're like Oliver Pope, right?
I guess. I mean,
All right. So listen, we've got, I'm kind of moving into what I've called the lightning round, where we've got some questions that have come from our Radivision viewers.
okay.
In this, I'm going to ask a few questions, and then, within 30 seconds to a minute, which you're not very verbose. So I'm pretty sure you'll be able to get through these questions quickly. Um, I want you to answer these questions for the people that are in our viewing audience. Okay.
Okay.
So the first one is, what defines the right partner in the positioning?
I mean, there has to be strategy, right? So I'll just give an example. So say Shaq owns other telecommunication. I'm sorry, I'm stuttering. Telecommunication. Essentially, he would be the right fit for us.
Got it.
Or, it's more so you want to find somebody that can also bring resources and assets outside of just capital. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, when I partnered with Tip on the Trap Music Museum, like it's not just him providing capital for the space, it's he's a major mogul in the entertainment space. So it makes sense in positioning with trap music. So it's all about, just lining it up and seeing what the synergies are outside of capital.
I love that. And let me give you some flowers real quick while we're talking about it. So Bam is the co-founder of the Trap Music Museum with Tip, formerly known as T.I. And it is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bam, it's the number 6 place on the National Geographic list of places to visit in the world. I think I saw that statistic about 4 or 5 weeks ago. Am I right?
That is correct. That is
That's
correct.
crazy. And it's just another example of, like, if you can sit around and dream it in your head, you can actually make it happen, because that's what you did. Like, hey, what if we had this museum where we just talked about how trap music got started, and gave flowers to everybody in the game, and it's like bazillion-dollar idea. You have so many people that come through that, so much so that it garnered the attention of National Geographic.
Yeah, yeah, that was awesome. That was big. That was a major accomplishment for us.
It's a huge accomplishment. So congratulations on that. And thank you for that answer. That, I think, lines it up perfectly in my mind for sure. All right. So our next question, how do you build partnerships, and what advice can you give other startups who don't have key partnerships from their prior experiences? So let's tackle that first one. How do you build partnerships?
Um, I mean, I've been fortunate to have a lot of relationships. I started in the entertainment business 16 years ago. So, I mean, I was blessed to work with some of the most, popular and biggest stars. So, sitting in a room at Facebook or Instagram or, Apple, all of these places, I mean, I've had access. And also, I went to a great university, Albany State University and Georgia Tech. So, some of my people who I went to school with, my classmates, they're all bosses. I feel like all of us elevating, having these resources, as long as you have a great plan and you present it to them, I mean, people are down.
So, what advice then do you give people who don't have that? They didn't go to Georgia Tech, right? They didn't, the world wasn't their oyster, so to speak, and this stuff didn't fall in their lap. How does somebody start from zero to create this network?
You said the key word, networking. I tell people all the time, you have to go out and seek like-minded people.
Mhm.
It's so funny. I started another company. I don't know if
What? Another one?
yeah, I know. It's
What's
called
that? 30, is that 33?
something like that. But basically, we intentionally pull Black business professionals together from different industries every Friday. We do mixers. I'll go and get a liquor sponsor. I get a food sponsor. We'll go to Holiday Bar or Bell Yard. You've been to a few,
Okay.
and essentially, people sit there, network, and collaborate. I think it's people feel more comfortable and like, okay, let me let my guard down. I see you're doing some boss stuff. Let me tell you about what I'm doing, and as long as we shake that fear of not wanting to ask people for things, or it's not even asking, it's just saying, hey, listen, I'm intentional about helping our people or helping myself or any other project. How can we do this together? I think, you know, it just helps. I think that's the best way to do it. You said the keyword networking.
So, like, literally start from the bottom and then you're here, right? Like the song said. But just being intentional. So, what I've heard you say is a couple of amazing things. First of all, you got to get the money. The money is out there. And, I think sometimes we get in a space where we're like, well, there's so many startups, there's so many entrepreneurs, there's so many new businesses. There's not enough money to go around, but there is plenty money. There's a
Yeah,
lot of money. And it doesn't have to look, and you don't have to look in the traditional spaces to find it, right?
exactly.
The second thing is this collaboration piece, and just start somewhere. Start at city council meetings, start at your neighborhood meetings, go to community gatherings, find networking events in the space where you are, and just start creating these relationships. And I think too, Bam, when you're operating in the space where you're supposed to be, like when you're operating in your lane, when you're fully aligned, then stuff literally just starts kind of happening for you, right? It's like The Secret, right? As you call it, it comes. But I think you have to know and be in the right space. Like you've got to be operating in your lane for, everything to kind of work together for your advantage. So the network will begin to build, the relationships will come, the partnerships and the aha moments. Oh my gosh, Shaq is digital. Yeah, why don't we reach out to Shaq, right? All of these things start making sense as you continue to kind of operate in your purpose.
Exactly. And things, like you said, it's just a line. It's all about alignment. I've been knowing Vernell obviously for over 10 years, and Al for maybe 2 or 3, and Jerome and I went to college together. So it's like we've been around each other for years, but it took that, like you said, that aha moment of us just being around each other and seeing that there was a problem and us coming together to say, this is how we're going to solve it. And since that day, every phone call, every meeting, I haven't had a bad meeting all year. I don't even know what that looks like anymore. So it's like things just align, as long as, like you say, you're fulfilling your purpose and surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals, it'll happen.
Absolutely. And you know what they say, never let a good crisis go to waste, right?
Unfortunately.
Or fortunately. All right. Well, listen, Bam, thank you so much for coming on the show. Again, like I learned so much from you every time I actually listen and talk to you. The information you have provided, I believe, can be invaluable for people who are watching it. So I know you're not raising money right now, but tell us, if somebody wants to get involved with Culture Wireless, maybe they want to give you some money, right? Even if you don't need it. How do they connect with you personally, or one of your founders, or the company itself?
Just check out the site. Go to culturewireless.com and you'll see contact us. I think it directs you to Jerome or Al. Just reach us there. I mean, and if you're in Atlanta, I'm pretty sure you'll run into me. I'm somewhere everywhere. So
yes, you are. And what about socials, Instagram handles, or Facebook, LinkedIn, any of that?
It's at Culture Wireless US, or is it at? It's just at Culture Wireless.
Okay, on everything.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. And culturewireless.com.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Bam. I appreciate it. Always coming through. And if there's anything that we can do here for you at Radavision, or me personally, obviously, to absolutely let me know.
Okay, I got you. Thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Guys, listen, we've had another amazing episode here of Black is the New Green. And what an incredible journey, right? Was this amazing? First of all, a huge thank you again to our guest. I was about to say our ghost. You're not a ghost yet, right, ma'am? William Bam Sparks. And listen, if you have friends who need inspiration, they're starting businesses, any of this stuff, make sure you send them to radavision.com. You can listen to this like it's a podcast while you're working out, doing the dishes, or whatever. There's no reason you can't be inspired immediately, because the information that we provide here is literally just invaluable. So you can do whatever you want to do and be inspired at the same time. Black is the new green. This is where we inspire our community to thrive, to build, support terrific companies. But most importantly, here's the thing, guys, we get to share our stories. We can feed off the energy of these amazing heroes like Bam, who succeed sometimes against crazy odds, and they put it all out there and they risk it all. But here's the thing, there's nothing special. As amazing as Bam is, there's nothing special about Bam. You can do the same thing. All you got to do is tune in and be inspired and put a little bit of action behind whatever that dream is of yours. Again, I'm Michelle Taylor Willis, and you can find me on just about everything at Michelle Taylor Willis. But more importantly, you can find me every Wednesday right here on radavision.com at 12:30 Eastern Time or at 9:30 Pacific. So until next time, see you.
Yeah, I do it for my people and my family and the ones who say they understand. Yeah, I see you and I see you. We gon' make it to the top, that's what we do. Tell them like, black